All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Dee Williams. I am the co-director of Bread and Roses Legal Center, and it is our great honor to host these powerful voices and some of the most incredible advocates who have had to be advocates when no one should need to. These are folks who have lost their loved ones in mass tragedies, who have been injured in mass tragedies, who've been harmed by them, and have had to organize because the funds that were raised for them to ensure that they're taken care of are being held by others and not released to them. And so we're here today to listen to their stories, listen to their voices, and demand not only 100% of what's been raised for the Club Q survivors be released to them, but that this cycle of harm against survivors be ended. And I want to first invite up Hysteria Brooks.
Give us a second, y'all. Give us. All right. Go ahead. Hello, everybody. My name is Hysteria Brooks. That's Hysteria. Brooks is Brooks. I recently learned that I can use the word formal employee, as many of us did in the Club Q recent post saying that we are all now formal employees. I have a couple of points that I would like to speak about in regards to Matthew Haynes and withholding funds that were raised specifically for Club Q staff and employees, and that we need those funds to be released. Matthew has stated that he is planning to release 1/5, but likely less than that, to his staff. That money was raised in our blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of the entertainers and staff have been through fundraisers all over the beautiful state of Colorado and beyond to raise funds to help each other through this time, and a lot of those funds have been sent to the official Club Q GoFundMe, where I have also been told a lot of other people have donated specifically because they believe that those funds are going to the staff and contractors of Club Q. Unfortunately, that is not the case. We, as Club Q staff and employees, have yet to receive a penny, a dime, or anything like that from Matthew Haynes, the owner of Club Q. He has stated that this Friday he is going to release some of the funds, but they're just not adequate enough for the amount of trauma and suffering that the employees, staff, victims, and survivors have all been through. Through his discussions on distributing funds, he has stated that he is going to give, average 3 months of our salaries and then give us a one-time check based on those averages. These people have new medical bills. These people are seeing therapists. These people are seeing physical therapists. There's a lot of new bills that have come up through this, and to try and withhold funds because you feel like the victims and staff have received generous donations through other organizations that you feel is comfortable for you to take a step back and not help your staff is unacceptable. The people that have donated to this official GoFundMe did it out of the kindness of their heart because they believed that what they were donating to was going to go directly to the people that were affected, and that is not the case. Matthew plans on using the majority of those funds to reopen his business, and I'm very sorry, but people should come before businesses, and Matthew really needs to understand that. Also, I think it's very wrong, but it's not right to build a memorial without the meaningful reflections and input from the families who lost loved ones. Matthew has decided that he is going to solely be the creator of this memorial, and he has not talked to any of the families of the deceased to get their input in, and that's just wrong. Many employees have not accessed other funds because they believed that they would be getting these funds. At the very beginning of this tragedy, Matthew had told us that we were going to be adequately taken care of, that we didn't need any other funds because Matthew, our boss, was going to take care of us. And now we're learning that that is not his true plan. Without the people, Club Q is just a building. Myself, all of these employees and staff, the ones that are standing with us today, and the ones that are at home because this is a lot to take in. We were the heart and soul of Club Q. Without us, it would have been 4 walls and a roof. And I guarantee you, nobody would have came into that building if Daniel, Derek, Potted Plant, Delusional, Bianca DeLeon, Connie Lingus, Autumn Quinn, Hysteria Brooks, Drake and Rogers, Tiara Latrice, if any of us would have not been there, that club would have crumbled. Matthew has misled the community and his employees and contractors. He should not be responsible for distributing funds. That is a very key point. With the funds that we are asking to be released to us, the majority of Club Q staff and employees have come up with a system that we think will work best for us. We are going to put the ones who have suffered the most loss at the top of our tier system, while the ones who have not suffered as great of a loss down towards the bottom. That is a system that works for us because we need to take care of each other. We've decided that we want people to be supported from funds raised based on how the staff was impacted. And that's how we plan to move forward. So we stand here today to say, Matthew Haynes, release the funds to the people it was promised to. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker coming up is Adriana Vance. I'm gonna give her a moment to get settled.
How's everyone doing today? It took a lot for me to come out here today to speak, but I feel like I need to speak not only on behalf of everybody, the victims and the families, but on behalf of my son, Raymond Green Vance. Colorado Healing Fund raised funds on behalf of my son and the victims and their families. The community and people across the world donated thinking that dollars were going to come to the people who deserve it, and that's not the case. The people behind this organization have withheld funds. They have not reached out to any of us to talk about what they're going to do with the funds that they've raised. And I don't believe that this should continue to go on. They already have a track record. All of us have incurred expenses to be here, whether it's to miss time from work, be away from the people that we're responsible for. And these people are dictating what they're going to do with the funds that they raise for us. This is a call for action for everybody that's listening, who is in a position of power to be able to help us. That's why we're here today, to speak, so that somebody out there listening can get down to the bottom of this. Because this is not the last that we're going to be here speaking out about this until we get what's owed to us. So I just appreciate everybody listening, and something needs to be done immediately. Thank you.
As everybody back here knows, okay. As everybody back here knows, I am Ashton Gamblin. I was the front door girl at Club Q. I was shot 9 times. I have been through immeasurable hell in the past 3 months. My husband was deployed when I was shot. And one of our regulars had to call my husband for me because it wasn't our owners taking responsibility or contacting my husband. I will follow through with hysteria on this, that I just learned out that I am also a former employee via Facebook, which is gracious because for the last 3 months I haven't been working. I can't even work my full-time job because I have one fully working hand and I have toddler hand strength. My left hand does not work right now. So I do stand with the employees that Matthew does need to release our money. As for the Colorado Healing Fund, they also need to release our money because we know what's best. We know our long-term needs, and we can't continue to submit receipts and monthly expenses and be treated like children when we spend a dime outside of something that's not covered. Because they will tell the public that everything is covered and they can't approve or deny anything. And that's highly inaccurate. At the hospital, I lost my great-grandmother's wedding rings. They were taken off my hands in the ER, and they were never found. And I am now on national TV admitting this because I haven't even told my grandmother that. The Colorado Healing Fund has told me that I wasn't allowed to purchase new wedding rings. I wouldn't get reimbursement if I purchased something that was going to make me feel a little bit normal because there was something missing from my left hand. And that's not fair to me. That I can't have even one thing that makes me somewhat normal. And I spent $700 that I will never see again on a wedding band, and I can't get that back from them. I'm tired of us being told no, because I'm not the only victim that's been told no. We can't survive on no, or somebody else's decisions on what is and isn't covered. It's our decision. We know what we need, and we can't do this. We are asking everybody to please stand with us and support us in the Colorado Healing Fund and Matthew Haynes in releasing our funds. Especially since Matthew has yet to pay a dime to any of the 5 families, when 2 of them were his own employees. I should never have to look a mother in the face and explain somebody's last moments because the owner can't, won't, or won't even send them so much as a small paycheck to pay funeral expenses. We need help, and we can't do this alone. I don't have much to say other than in asking for everybody to please stand with us. It's going to be a long road.
My name is James Slaw. I was a survivor of the Club Q shooting. And I'm here the same reason we're all here. That reason is because we're being treated unfairly. At this point, there's a story that happens after the shooting. There's this lost, forgotten story that no one knows, no one hears about, and it's we have the privilege today to share that because we did survive. That story is of struggle. That story is of trying to feel normal. That story is of not wanting to look over our shoulder every single day or every time we go into a club or anywhere. And unfortunately, none of us have been able to quite meet the needs that we have. We're all struggling. We've had to jump through hoops to just get our rent paid. We've had to, send out bill after bill and have the money come in late because the healing fund is not helping us. It's been this struggle every single day. That all of us who cannot go back to work because we had an injury, or all of us who are traumatized by this event haven't had a chance to, pay anything. So we are calling out the healing fund. We are calling out the people that are responsible for these funds to bring us into the loop. We were able a month ago to speak with the Judy Garage and the Compassion Fund. They had a timeline. They told us they know, and they're with us, 100% is going to us. We haven't heard anything from the Healing Fund. And that's what we're asking for. We are adults. We can take care of our own funds. We have our own accountability. Stop victimizing us. Stop re-victimizing us. And just give us what we need to survive. Give us what we need to move on.
Tiffany Loving, I'm Kelly Loving's sister. She got killed that night. Kind of like Andrea said, if it wasn't for them, her potted bread and roses, the Colorado Healing Fund, they said they was going to do things, but I'm not from here. I'm from Memphis, and it's like they just left me in the dark. Only for like court dates and stuff like that, but as far as like funds or helping with things and the documents that they did send me to fill out to pay for like loss of wages and stuff like that, after I sent it, they denied it. If it wasn't for bread and roses, I wouldn't have no help. So I believe they should release funds to the victims and the families. Thank you. I'm nervous.
My name is Mark Slaw. I am a family member of 3 people that were shot at Club Q that night. I almost lost half my family in an instant. And it's been a very hard and painful road to watch my siblings recover from being shot out of malice and hate in a moment where all control and autonomy was completely taken from them. They had no choice. They had no situational awareness as gunshots just ring out in their direction and they're down on the ground in a pool of their own blood. My sister almost became the 6th victim that night. as much as they have to struggle against the pain and psychological damage that has been caused to our family, there should be no reason I have to be their advocate to struggle for simple bills to get paid. I've asked the Colorado Healing Fund and their steering committee to include victims and represent our voices when they talk about my sister's name as a reason that they withhold funds for long-term care. You don't know my family. None of them are victims. None of them are her doctor. None of them are psychologists. And they need to stop pretending like they know what's best for my family. My family knows what's best for my family. They are adults. They had plans before this. They had life goals. They had jobs before someone tried to derail their lives out of hate and malice. And it is simply re-victimizing them to tell them that they don't know what's best for themselves and to tell them they have no seat at the table to raise their voices, to be heard. They shouldn't have to be here raising their voice today. None of them should have to be here to simply give the message that we are owed what people gave, expecting it to go to these people. And for the donors out there that gave $1, you expected that dollar to help families and to help victims and survivors. You did not expect 50 cents to go help them. You didn't expect 80 cents to go help them. You expected 100 cents, a whole dollar, to go help. And that's people's hard-earned money that they gave out of the generosity of their hearts and their wallets to help. That should not be taken from them either, out of some arbitrary dark shadow council saying they know what's best to do with those donations either. And for the public officials that continually endorse the Colorado Healing Fund, you should know they have a terrible track record. It isn't just the victims of Club Q, but Aurora, King Soopers, where only half of each dollar went to the victims directly. They have an industrial complex around mass shootings. Capitalism profits off of their suffering. And it's not okay for these nonprofits to come up with vague language and vaguer excuses to keep the money that people give out of the generosity of their hearts to victims to help them through these very difficult struggles. It needs to stop. And public officials need to stop. You need to only endorse funds that guarantee 100%, like the National Compassion Fund has done for us, go to the victims directly with a protocol and with a timeline. That's it.
Next up, I'm thankful to invite my friend Erica Ryder, owner of Hope Tank.
Hi, my name is Erica Ryder. I am the owner of Hope Tank, and for 10 years I had the greatest privilege to have my shop just a door away from Soul Tribe. And one of my very closest friends, Alicia Cardenas, last year she and 4 other souls were killed by a white supremacist who planned and plotted their murders. Being an outspoken community leader about many difficult issues, folks assumed that I would take up the gun rights issues and red flag laws, but I am here to speak out against the white saviorism and direct harm done by bad philanthropy in times of tragedy, and to hold the Colorado Healing Fund accountable for the harm they have caused. I am a social worker turned small business owner, and I use my platform to uplift good organizations doing good work with the most marginalized of us. I call on all of us to hold the nonprofit sector to higher standards. When my friends were murdered, I suddenly found myself not only grieving their loss, but my business just a door away became the safe space for coordinating every single thing. Our community sprung into action, and we asked for gift card donations to meet the immediate needs of not just Soul Tribe, but also Lucky 13 and others who were targeted. We found a grant that paid the artist who created a print of Alicia that has been seen around the world. Folks would Venmo us, and I could then reimburse the indigenous healers and dancers and friends and family for the healing that we needed on our own terms. Within 24 hours, our friends had set up GoFundMes, fundraising events were being put together, and suddenly this organization, the Colorado Healing Fund, kept coming up as the beneficiary. As I always do, I did my homework, and I was floored to find that no one knew who they were. No one had heard from anyone from the organization, and yet they were suddenly authorized to fundraise on behalf of a very unique, very diverse community. They were using the names of 2 murdered Indigenous women to fundraise, and implied that people shouldn't trust the GoFundMe set up by the very people who actually had permission to. As the ground zero of the resourcing, I never once was contacted by any of them to offer help. I was in crisis, my kids were in crisis, and there were no victims advocates who stopped by to see what we needed, supports for any of us or our children or our chosen family. The press had no problem finding me, but not the Colorado Healing Fund. Thankfully, community showed up. We got people fed, protected. We had so much help with the coordination and distribution. And here we are a year out. And not only has the Healing Fund not reported on how the money that was raised for the Soul Tribe, Lakewood, Denver tragedy was distributed, but I can tell you that most of the impacted folks didn't receive a dime. We would never have been able to handle and endure the horrendous hoops they put victims through just to potentially receive funds. To force people to work with strangers in law enforcement, many of whom have been traumatized by that institution, is cruel. And they have the choice to change how they distribute funds. When Club Q happened, we went straight to the sources closest to those impacted and asked what they needed. It was immediate support, just like we needed. And we were able to quickly find ways to get those needs met. I am proud that our community, with support from Bread and Roses and Victims First, was able to buy Christmas presents for 12 of the kids whose parents were impacted, something that would never have been covered under those expectations by this organization. As a former social worker, to find out that an organization with so little track record, with so many concerns having been raised by victims in other tragedies, and their executive director having no experience dealing with any of this, I was stunned. If this is about victims and this organization was doing great work, we would have been the first to champion them. Only when they received bad press, they put out spin about how the funds were going to be donated. They got another organization that was so afraid to go public. What does that tell you? To cover their admin costs to continue to do more of the same bad work, and they even had the gall to ask me to serve through some person to help them advise to do better. Not in a million years. The people who chose to capitalize on the opportunity to get paid to advise them when those dollars should have gone to victims should be ashamed. The truth is the Healing Fund should divest the remainder of the funds to the victims and walk away. You have been given more opportunity to do good than most of us with far fewer resources, and you have proven to be inadequate to the task. Colorado victims deserve to have culturally relevant, community-led response to crisis, and leaders need to listen when we shout that something isn't right. Donors deserve to have their dollars go exactly where it was intended, directly to the victims for whatever the hell they need. Every survivor is an individual and should be treated as such, and every survivor's story is valid. I wasn't in the building when my friends and chosen family were murdered, but I and my friends and my kids are still deep in grief and struggle, and we still need community. Organizations like the Healing Fund center themselves in this tragedy and position themselves as experts, and then they gatekeep those funds. You all have a lot to learn from the real experts, the victims and the mutual aid workers who were able to mobilize incredible support in mere hours. My dear friends, Elisa and Alyssa were champions of mutual aid, and you dishonor them with the harm you've caused their families, friends, and our community. And I stand in solidarity with everyone in the Club Q tragedy.
Before we go, where's Zach? Zach and I both have some statements to read from folks who are not able to be here, but I just want to say, as a queer and trans person who was in contact with the Healing Fund right away, some of the ineptitude that we experienced, we called them and said, people are calling Bread and Roses because they need their binders replaced. And they said, well, you went to Office Max then to get your binders? We were talking about gender-affirming clothing for trans people, but this organization, their leadership admitted they've never even met trans people before. And we believe very firmly that queer and trans people need to care for our own community, because we know we have different ways of doing things. And I also just want to say, it's been less than 3 months, and folks who went through that shouldn't have to be here. And they're also not alone. This organization has years of these issues happening. Even before they were the Healing Fund, it was the same people re-victimizing, re-traumatizing people. And so I'm also really thankful that Victims First is here, because Erica and I, for a long time, felt like we were the only ones screaming in the dark about this organization, that everyone felt like it was okay. And we saw it, and Victims First also has seen it and has been with folks through time and has helped bring these words today from folks impacted by the Boulder King Soopers tragedy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Zachary Blair. I'm the Vice President of Victims First, and over 20 years of mass shooting family support everyone up here today. Today I want to just acknowledge it's 15 years since the shooting at NIU, 5 years since the Parkland shooting, and roughly 15 hours since the most recent shooting at Michigan State. With no end in sight, it's important that we get this right. I'm here because Star Barkowiak from Boulder, she wanted me to read a statement, and this is what she has to say. My daughter, Lona Barkowiak, was murdered along with 9 others by a shooter who made a choice on March 22nd, 2021 to take lives, and this is what the Colorado Healing Fund was waiting for. Established in December 2018 by Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman, with $1 million recovered in consumer fraud money. They started a nonprofit with questionable funding and then never did any fundraising for their own mission. Instead, with premeditation, they waited for people to be murdered so that they could fund their mission by intercepting donations intended for victims' families. No fundraising from 2018 to 2021 shows exactly how they plan to fund their mission. The board and advisors obviously chose to ignore basic nonprofit principles, and by doing so should be held accountable for their participation in the re-victimization of all the victims' families. Shame on you. When the Colorado Healing Fund was activated, it billed itself as the safe way to collect donations that would go directly to victims' families, avoiding possible fraudulent nonprofits. The Colorado Healing Fund collected millions for our families, but I received no phone call or email or letter to say donations from many caring people who would not begin to imagine what we were going through will be divided equally among the victims. We were at the lowest, darkest time of our lives, and instead of being our saving grace, you all chose to appoint your nonprofit as the single point in Colorado for collecting donations for victims of mass shootings. We are broken for the rest of our lives. There is no understanding unless you live it. For me, it's like never-ending ground, a never-ending horror movie. Every morning I wake up and find my daughter is really gone. She's dead. Those affiliated with the Colorado Healing Fund have all admitted that they collected donations for the victims' families, but they have a new model that they're using. Bottom line, it's not a new model, but a model that victims' families have objected to for over 20 years. These same people behind the Colorado Healing Fund know all too well that donations come rolling in after mass shootings and have years of practice abusing and siphoning donations intended for victims' families to further their own agendas. These people are guilty of the worst cases of victim fraud and should face criminal charges. The IRS and nonprofit principles state that donations must be used for donors' intent. Where are the elected officials that should step up and stamp out this injustice? We need to be thanking a nonprofit for their help, not feeling helpless because once again, the Colorado Healing Fund and others like them have been allowed to re-victimize us. Unfortunately, there are more families ready to speak out. Please listen and learn. We don't need a middleman to call us greedy while their executive director doubles her salary with donations for victims. What is collected for our families should go directly to us. Elevation's credit union collected more than $740,000 and made sure it all went to victims' families. They divided it by 10 to disperse and skipped over the Colorado Healing Fund completely. Thank you, Elevation's credit union, for not being sucked into the Colorado Healing Funds, re-victimizing the families, telling us that donations were not for us. I do not recall anyone saying they were donating to resiliency centers or salaries or admin fees or for massages and acupuncture. King Soopers donated over $1 million and my family was given a check for $10,000. Really? I find that rather insulting. Was the Colorado Healing Fund or Nancy Lewis from COBA deciding that after receiving over $1 million, my daughter's death was worth 1% of their donation? Again, thanks to Elevation's credit union who collected over $740,000 after the shooting and who made sure every penny went directly to victims. Sincerely, Star Barkowiak, mother of Trilana Barkowiak. She was my firstborn best friend. I miss her so much. I also want to point out that Cynthia Kaufman, this is me speaking, and Steve Siegel have reportedly said that the model they use at the Colorado Healing Fund is backed by science. As a social scientist myself, I can tell you that that's not true. There's not a white paper on the planet that says it's best for a nonprofit to become the financial manager over victims' long-term needs, or that a nonprofit should withhold any portion of the public's generosity for mass shooting victims. Give 100% to Boulder and Club Q victims now, and include the interest. No one should profit off mass murder. Thank you.
I also just want to name that I was reminded that there's still funeral expenses from Club Q that have not been paid off. There are families that don't know how they're going to pay that off or when they're going to. There are folks that are feeling trapped. They want to leave Colorado Springs. They know that they can't work in a bar again and they can't make next steps because they're living relief check to relief check. It's an imposed cycle of poverty. And there's a person who unfortunately is not able to be here because he died in this struggle. He died in his advocacy against the Healing Fund. His name is John McKenzie, and I'm going to read his exact words that he shared to the Attorney General of Colorado and to other lawmakers. His life with his wife ended after 30 years together on March 21st of 2001 at the King Soopers in Boulder, Colorado. And John said, "I want to make certain no other families experience the re-victimization that we have in the aftermath of a mass murder. The Colorado Healing Fund has collected millions of dollars for our families. The executive director, Jordan Finnegan, said that they are planning to hold money back. They're already taking out administration fees at 5%, which are significant. Donated funds were for victims' families, not nonprofits to use at their discretion. Public intent is self-evident and well documented. The organizations acting to control the monies collected are not fulfilling public intent. The victims are not being treated with fairness, respect, or dignity. Life is all about choice. No person, committee, or organization should decide for victims. The complete absence of transparency is deeply concerning and unacceptable. For 7 weeks, I've requested far greater transparency, clarity, and understanding. Instead, I've been spoken down to, avoided, and treated in an infantile manner by those who are here to help. People need the money they're entitled to, those collected in their names. Our lives are in complete ruin. I need to know what was collected in my family's name for my dead wife, and I would like the remainder of it. Not $5,000 here, $10,000 here, $25,000 there, because of my long-term needs and their determination. I want to invite up our last speaker, which is Amy. And I'm really thankful for this person because we met in Amy's continuing advocacy to make sure that 100% of funds raised are going to survivors, and speaking with a lot of clarity about the needs of people to other organizations that raised money. And so really thankful for you to be here.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Amy Cook. I am a survivor of the 2012 mass shooting at the Aurora Theater. I stand in solidarity with all of these people that are here today. I do know what that feels like. I absolutely understand. I'm going to call out the governor of this state, Jared Polis. I'm going to call out the attorney general of this state, Phil Weiser. I'm going to call out every legislature that's sitting in that rotunda today, making decisions that affect my life and their life. We need to come to that point where we realize that victims know best what they need at the end of the day. It is a long-term struggle. You know, I'm 10 years out from my shooting, and I understand those long-term needs. I understand what that's like going through it. I want to see these legislatures. I want to see our elected officials. You're here to serve all the people of this state. Start serving them. Start doing what you're supposed to do. Take this fund that they've been utilizing. It's a bad model. Get rid of it. Listen to those people that have gone through it. That's it. I'm going to stand here with these folks today. Do your jobs. That's it.
All right, that is the end of our formal remarks for the press conference. I want to thank you all again for being here. You should not have to be here. And Bread and Roses, our organization, and I know Victims First as well, we do this work because we believe that these are the folks that know what they need, that they have known what they've needed since the beginning, and they've been saying it with great clarity. And they deserve that. They deserve autonomy, they deserve privacy, they deserve 100% of the funds raised for them. They deserve to have them yesterday. And this is the beginning, and we will be knocking on these doors until this process of harm ends. So thank you all, and I think some folks are available for comments afterwards.